On Saturday, November 2nd, starting at noon, Kevin Williams is helping sick kids by playing video games. He needs your help to raise $1,000 for the CHIO Foundation. Donate at extra-life.org/participants/347875.
Hey guys, I'm Jen. I'm a gamer, a photographer, and a longtime wrestling fan. Wrestling, especially women's wrestling, has truly evolved over time and is bigger than ever. I'm here to give my take on the world of wrestling, be it women, men, or whatever else is on my mind. Because if women in wrestling are being heard more, shouldn't women in wrestling podcasts be too? Welcome to Women Crush Wrestling! What's up, everybody? It's me, Just Jenny, here with my boy Adam.
What's poppin'? Not yet, I hope.
No, but my belly popped.
You gotta make it to SummerSlam.
Farther.
No, have the kid at SummerSlam. Come on.
No, because then I'm scared he won't make it. He'll be too young, too baby.
Oh, okay. Well, jeez, you had to talk about.
Whoa.
Had to bring infant mortality in this. I thought we were here to have a good time.
We
Apparently
are here to have
not.
a good time.
Well, I'm not with you talking about
Well, don't wish bad things
dead
on me.
premature babies. That's unfortunate.
Don't wish bad things then.
I'm not wishing bad things. I'm saying that if your kid was born at SummerSlam, how amazing would that be? You would, of course, you would have to name him SummerSlam.
No.
No?
Nope. Not gonna happen. No.
Hey, Jen, speaking of names, nobody guessed the name of your kid.
No one even tried.
No one even tried. They were just
Wow.
it's not even going to happen.
No.
Which is unfortunate. But
Sad.
I'm going to give you the opportunity. If you want to tell us the name, you can. Don't worry about it if you don't want to, because it's privacy and that's all your decisions and whatnot. But I think since nobody guessed,
They don't deserve it.
I think I get to name the nickname of the kid. Come on.
What?
I'm still going to call him Cthulhu.
No.
But then his identity is protected. Nobody knows him. It's just he's a little baby Cthulhu.
What is he, assassin?
Well, he's a demigod, like a horror.
No,
horror
I know
god.
who he is, but I just mean the whole no one knows who he is. He's
just
untraceable.
Some parents.
John Wick.
Can I call him Johnny?
My baby's John Wick.
John Wick. The little Wick.
Oh no, that sounds horrible.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, little Wick.
What about the little John? Like the
Yeah.
like the Robin. Oh, see, I was going Robin Hood, and you were just get crunk. Your baby get crunk. Oh God, that's amazing.
Who nowadays thinks of Lil Jon when you think of friggin' Robin Hood? Not Robin Hood, but
who thinks of Robin Hood when you say Little John?
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Me, I guess.
And I hope if you think of Robin Hood, it's the Men in Tights Robin Hood.
Okay.
Because that's the best.
There's a Little John in that.
There is.
Yes.
He's not so little, but there's a Little John in that.
That's kind of the gimmick.
I know.
So maybe by naming him Little John, we're actually wishing health and prosperity, that you have a big, fat, healthy baby.
Maybe.
See? So it's the opposite of the SummerSlam thing. should be SummerSlam. Come on. SummerSlam. Come on. Let's put a petition in there. SummerSlam.
No.
Come on.
Can you imagine?
Okay, fine. Cthulhu.
No.
No? Okay.
No.
We're just going to leave it at that then?
We're really good at that.
All right, okay. Instead, what I think we should do is we should be talking about our special guest this week. Man, what a big week she's got coming up, SummerSlam week. Meave O'Farrell is going to be on the show this week. She's got a WWE tryout coming up in Toronto the week of August the 10th. She's also going to be at a little thing called The Summit.
Nice.
Yeah, she's going to be part of the meet and greet match along with a couple of other folks. Alexia Nicole, who was a former guest on the show here, as well as Jody Threat, who I hope will be a future guest here on the show. But also, she's also got an opponent of hers that she's pretty familiar with. Mary Lee Rose is going to be in the tag match as well. That's a name that you're probably going to become familiar with in the next couple of weeks here on Women Crush Wrestling. Hint, hint.
Foreshadowing.
A little foreshadowing there. And in case you haven't gotten your tickets yet to the summit, what the heck are you waiting for? Addie Starr was just announced to be part of the meet and greet special as well. Vanessa Craven, of course, Addie is a friend of the show. She's been on the show. And, man, all kinds of great talent is going to be there. Get your tickets right now, okay? Go visit smash-wrestling.com to get your tickets. This is like the 4 biggest purveyors of women's wrestling in the U.S. and Canada. Smash Wrestling, Shimmer Wrestling, Femme Fatale's Rise. Smash is going to crown their first women's champion ever at this show. Rosemary or Casey Spinelli, which I think is cool because if you know anything about the history of Smash, those two ladies have been huge representatives for that brand. And I think it's really appropriate that one of those two are going to be crowned the first women's champion of Smash. But the Shimmer Championship is going to be on the line. The Femme Fatales Championship is going to be on the line. Mercedes Martinez against Jordan Grace. That's
two beautiful women.
Yeah. Nicole Matthews, your girl, is going to come back to the ring to take on Nicole Savoy. Zoe Lucas defending the Rice Championship against Ariel Monroe. Listen to this. Cheerleader Melissa, Allison Kay, Lufisto, and Priscilla Kelly all in one match.
That's like your dream match.
I know, right? And then they're going to go ahead and add Shotzi Blackheart and Delilah Doom. Xandra Bale was just announced as a special guest referee. It's almost too much to handle, but I'm going to have to handle it because I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there in person. I'm so excited about this. Going to meet Bull Nakano. Mm-hmm. And if you want to meet Bull Nakano, you should go get your tickets now as well. Of course, it's not the only show that we're going to be a part of this summer. Just a few days earlier than that, Thursday, August the 8th at the Transact nightclub. We're going to be part of the Union of Independent Professional Wrestlers Never Say Never event at 292 Brunswick Avenue in Toronto. If you're 19 plus and you're looking to win a pair of tickets, go back right now and listen to the latest episode of The Lasting Mark, episode 80. They have a code word for you. Head back over to WrestleMedia.ca and enter for your chance to win. But guess what? We ain't even done stopping. We ain't done, son. Because the next weekend, we're heading over to Ottawa, St. Anthony's Banquet Hall at 523 St. Anthony Street in Ottawa for Fighting Back 9. We would invite you to come, but it's sold out.
Nice.
And all the proceeds go towards the Canadian Cancer Society. So it's all for a great cause. Cody's going to be there. MJF's going to be there. Joey Janela's going to be there. The Dark Order is going to be there. If you got your tickets, good on you. If you didn't, well, you lose, sucker. Mm-hmm. Just head over to c4wrestling.com and check out all the other shows they got going on. And then the very next night, we are not stopping, Jenny. We're heading over to the Chinlock Wrestling Academy at 824 Palace Road in Napanee for Fallout. We've got Jan Murphy, the promoter, stepping into the ring. He's not a trained wrestler, but he's going to be in for a fight against CJ Felony. He wants to win the Cale Murphy Memorial Championship and defend the honor of his brother. It's going to be a great show. It takes just $15. Go get him now. If you ever want to know where we're going to be on tour, just head over to WrestleMedia.ca and check that out. Okay, I think we babbled on long enough. I want to get to our special guest. So we're going to do that. We're going to let Meave O'Farrell take over. We're going to talk with her for a little bit, and then we're going to come back and wrap things up. Sound good?
Good.
All right, let's do it. I'm very pleased to be joined on the line today by a woman who you can see at the Summit on August 10th. She's going to be a part of the meet and greet match. We can't wait to have her on the show. We can't wait to see her in action. Please welcome to Women Crush Wrestling, Meave O'Farrell. Meave, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone.
Meave, it's an honor to have you on the show. You have been turning heads and making headlines for a very long time right now, so it's really great to have you here with us. I wanted to ask, for those listeners who may not be familiar with your work, tell us a little bit about who you are. If someone was to ask you, who is Meave O'Farrell, what would you say?
Well, Meave O'Farrell is a little girl from Quebec, and she wrestles mainly for the NSPW in Quebec City. I've wrestled quite a bit in the Eastern Township, part of Quebec City, Sherbrooke area, a few years back, and I've did a lot of work there, and not so much. And then I took a break, and then I came back to wrestling, and really, it's just something that I love to do. I love wrestling, and it's just an honor to be able to do it in that scale. It's gotten pretty big lately, and I really just want to have fun, really.
Well, that's awesome, and you certainly seem to be having a good time and having a lot of fun when you're out there wrestling. I actually want to start off by going back a little bit. Were you a wrestling fan growing up as a child?
Yes, actually, I've started watching wrestling when I was around 6 years old with my father and brothers. And it was kind of the Attitude Era. And you can imagine, as the little girl I was playing with Barbie, I was 6 years old, and my favorite wrestler was Stone Cold Steve Austin. So it's pretty much a different perspective. And seriously, I've always loved wrestling, and always been a part of my life. So it was just natural for me to go in the ring and do something that I love.
What was it about wrestling that you loved so much when you were a kid? What appealed to you about it?
maybe it would be the characters. It would be like bigger than the natural and all the theater side of it. And I've always loved theater. I've done a lot of theater and when I was in high school. And so for wrestling to be exactly that, theater, and with maybe a more aggressive size, it just felt good. That felt good with me, and I really enjoy all the sides of wrestling. So, yeah.
Around what age did you start getting involved with theater?
I was around 14 years old in high school. It was a program offered in my high school, so I started doing theater, and I enjoy that. And then around 16, I had a chance to enter a wrestling promotion, so I just did.
So you started wrestling, or at least training to be a wrestler, at the age of 16 years old.
Yeah, I was 16, in 2007.
I have to ask, what did your parents think of you stepping into the ring at that age?
There wasn't any problem with it, I suppose. My mother always thought it was fun for me to have something that I love to do, and she saw that I really enjoyed it. My father, on the other hand, it wasn't. How can I say that? He wasn't as happy about it because of all the bump taking and all the bruises we can have, maybe. But no big deal.
Well, let me ask you, when you started training at 16 years old, was it something that you hid from the other kids at school, or was it something that you were proud to show off and say, hey, I'm a wrestler?
I was proud to show it, actually. I was attending a girl-only school in high school, and to say that I was a girl wrestler at 16 years old, and I was the only one to do that for sure. And everyone was curious about it. I never had any negative backlash because of it. Everybody was curious.
That's really cool. And it's a story that you don't always hear from wrestlers, that people in their communities were supportive of what they were doing. But it's nice to know that there are communities out there that were appreciative of the fact that you were doing something really different and unique and creative. Were you athletic and into sports when you were younger as well, or was it just the dramatics and theater side?
I've always been pretty athletic, I would say, but I was scared to do things. I was just keep the basics. But as of late, when I started wrestling again less than a year ago, I just went for it. I went for the moonsault. I went for all the spinning thing and all the flipping, and I just realized that I was able to do it, and I can do it, and I just go for it.
So let me ask you, when you started training and when you stepped into the ring for the first time, you were pretty young. What did you have an aha moment? A moment where you realized, yes, I want to be a pro wrestler, this is it? Or was it just something that kind of slowly crept into your mind and it kind of happened one day?
There was that time, in 2005, I went to see a wrestling show in my town of Sherbrooke. My brother was on the show, and I was attending first row. It just fell on me. I wanted to do that. I knew I would be good at it. So it was the theater part of it. It was the athletic part of it. The whole thing being a show. I just thought it was brilliant, and I didn't know at the time I would spend all my life on it, but I knew it would be a hobby, and a good one at that. One I would put my heart into. I never thought like I want to be a wrestler, like a professional wrestler for the rest of my life. It's never really been my goal. The only thing I wanted to do was wrestle. I just had so much fun at it.
Now, you said at that show your brother was performing. So am I to understand you're not the only wrestler in your family?
I am not. My brother was actually the very first wrestler.
How old were you when he started wrestling?
He's 5 years older than me. So when I started training, I was 16, he was 21.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. He just did a few shows at the federation where I started wrestling, the SCW in Sherbrooke. He was wrestling there way before me, yeah. And he just introduced me to the guy. That's why it was easy for me to get in the promotion. My brother was already wrestling there.
I assume he was also very supportive of you jumping into the ring.
Exactly, yes. Yes, he always believed in me.
Did he help train you at all? Was he involved at all in getting you into the ring?
Yes, actually, yes, absolutely.
And was it weird at all to be, taking instructions from your brother, or did it just kind of make a lot of natural sense for you?
Yes, it always has, because as you can imagine, being children, we always wrestled, and my brother was always wrestled with me and my sister, and so it was natural for me to just keep on wrestling with my brother.
So I have to ask, have you had a chance to wrestle against your brother or team up with him?
No, it never happened, unfortunately.
All right, bookers, you've got your challenge out there. Make it happen for me.
No, he doesn't wrestle anymore.
But maybe that's a match it would be worth dragging him out of retirement for.
Yeah, definitely a rematch for sure.
And speaking of retirements, I wanted to talk a little bit about a hiatus that you took from the ring back in 2013. You thought that you were kind of done with wrestling, at least for a little bit. What kind of led to that? What made you feel like you had to step away for a while?
I think I just wanted to focus my attention on something else. I've just been accepted in university in archaeology, and I was going away. I was leaving town, leaving Sherbrooke to Quebec City, and I didn't know anyone here in the wrestling business. So I believe it was just kind of, there is a saying in French, I don't know if it is so in English, loin des yeux, loin du cœur, so far from the eyes, far from the heart.
Yes.
So, not being close to wrestling anymore, I just thought I would just focus on something else. And, archaeology being some kind of physical work also. I've got to have a good back and good knees to perform that activity, archaeology. So I thought at the time it wouldn't go well with wrestling. So I just made a choice to put wrestling aside for a bit because I did not think I would spend my life on it. So I just wanted to do something else, maybe for a bit.
Where did you go to school to study archaeology?
Université Laval in Quebec City.
Okay. And what made you want to study archaeology? What was it about that particular field that got you excited?
It has always been there, that desire of being an archaeologist, because I've always loved history, but I didn't want to just study it in the books. I wanted to put my two hands in it. So that's why archaeology was the best fit.
Are you the kind of person that finds you get bored easily with things and you kind of always have to find a new challenge? Or is it just kind of a coincidence that you kind of went and tried something different at that time?
I do not especially seek challenges. Maybe it just happens to be the things that I love that are challenging.
That's a really good quote. I might use that quote to promote the interview. That's a good one. I like that. So you go away, you step away from the ring for a little bit, but you couldn't keep away. You had to come back eventually. So I want you to kind of tell us about what it was that brought you back to the ring and what made you decide that you had to step back between the ropes.
It really just that I missed it too much. When I quit wrestling a few years ago, I wasn't watching wrestling, actually, like watching WWE every week, watching indie wrestling. I did not do that part. And when I stopped wrestling, it took like 2 or 3 years, and I started watching wrestling again, like watching WWE again, watching ROH and watching New Japan. And I just watched wrestling and watched wrestling and watched wrestling, and it just started hitching in me that I need to get back in the ring. That is something that I love too much. and I was started thinking, why did I go away in the first place? It's just so much fun. And so I contacted some guys in Quebec City. I knew a guy who was going to the NSPW Pro Academy Wrestling. So I just said, hey, I want to start wrestling again. Do you think I can stop by at the practice so I can just go in the ring and unrust myself? And so I just went there and I started training with the guys in Quebec, and I started wrestling again.
What was it like for you to step back into the ring that first time after your hiatus? Were you nervous? Were you excited? How did you feel?
You're talking practices or actual match?
Actual match in front of a crowd.
Okay, there was a bit of nervousness, of course, but deeply, it's just like I've never left.
Were you more nervous for your first match in the ring or your return match from the ring?
My first match in the ring.
That one's always a tough one.
Definitely my first match in the ring. I was so much stressed out.
Do you remember your first match or much about it? Do you remember who you wrestled?
Yeah, I remember all of it, actually. I was wrestling a big guy, like six foot tall, and his name was Chopper. And we had a little story because I was acting as a referee before wrestling, and I was refereeing his match, and I was always putting him back in his place because he was a heel and I was the baby face. And so my first match, it was just natural to have my first match against him. And I won.
What kind of advantage do you think being a referee before starting as a wrestler did you have? What did the work as a referee help teach you, or at least give you an advantage for when you stepped inside the ropes?
Definitely the experience of being inside a ring during a show, to feel the crowd, to be able to see the show from that perspective before being an actual wrestler. I wasn't new exactly to the feeling of being under the spotlight.
And you mentioned earlier that you had fallen out of wrestling during your time away at school. When you came back, I assume you got back into it. So my question now is, are you watching currently the product that's out there, and what are you enjoying right now? Is there a particular promotion or a wrestler out there that you really enjoy watching?
There are a few, especially, in the women's division, there's so many people. If quickly in the WWE, there will be Ember Moon. She's absolutely fantastic. Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, they're all fantastic. And obviously the Charlotte Flair of this world, Toni Storm, of course. I don't really know the Japanese girls, but the few ones I saw in AEW, they were phenomenal. So there are so many talents that are great out there.
So while we're talking about WWE, I think we should bring up the fact that you have a pretty interesting opportunity coming up in just a few weeks. You are getting a chance to try out with the WWE. Why don't you tell us? That's pretty incredible. I would love for you to kind of tell us how that came about.
Actually, it is possible to send a demand to the Performance Center, a tryout demand. So I believe at some point, people just told me, you should give it a try. So I just did, and without expecting much out of it, And just a few weeks later, they just announced that big Canadian tryout and sent me an invitation. I believe that's the answer to my demand.
Can you kind of tell us about what your reaction was? How did you find out? Did they call you? Did they send you an email? And what was going through your mind when you found out that you were going to get this opportunity?
It was an email, and seriously, I did not freak out. I just felt like, wow, this is absolutely crazy. Like, the opportunity that is given to me, that's beyond words. So I just notify my trainer, like Steve Boutet, and at the academy, and I just said, I received the invitation. That's crazy.
They must have been so proud of you.
Yes.
And of course, that's not the only opportunity that you have that week in Toronto. You're going to be a part of the summit, of course, WrestleMedia.
Yes.
We're going to be there as well. We're so excited about it. For those of you who are wondering, you can get your tickets still. It is going to be presented by Smash Wrestling, Rise, Femme Fatales, and Shimmer. It's going to be at the Midtown Event Center at 2492 Yonge Street in Toronto. Get your tickets at ticketscene.ca. You are in a very interesting tag team contest for the meet and greet crowd. It's you and Alexia Nicole, another former guest here on Women Crush Wrestling, taking on Jody Threat and an old rival of yours, Mary Lee Rose.
Yes. I'm very excited about it.
It's going
to be a great match, I believe.
I mean, I can't think of any reason why it wouldn't. And what I love about it is you've got two of Quebec's best and two of Ontario's best teaming up and facing off against one another. I think this is a really wonderful showcase match. Have you had a chance to work with Jody or Alexia in the past?
Not yet, actually. These two I've seen wrestle, and I've always wanted to meet them in the ring. So I'm actually very, very excited about that match.
Of course, we know that you'll have your eyes firmly glued to the Mercedes Martinez versus Jordan Grace match for the Femme Fatales Championship as you wrestle in Femme Fatales, and I'm sure that you would love your opportunity to challenge for the championship in the near future. Is there anything in particular on the card that you are really excited for or looking forward to seeing?
All the matches are really so great. So great. There is none in particular that I'm really excited about. They all look fantastic. They all are fantastic.
It would be hard just to pick a single one out of that incredible lineup.
That's exactly it. There are so many the girls I know, and it's just the whole card is fantastic. It's going to be an event for sure.
So what do you like to do when you're not wrestling? What kind of gets you going whenever you're not in the ring?
I like reading, and I like gaming a little. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we'll start with the reading section. Do you have a favorite author or a favorite book?
No, I love reading a bit of fantasy and sci-fi. I'm presently reading Dracula from Bram Stoker. Bram Stoker? Yeah.
Fantastic. Going classic. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. It's something I've never read.
Do you sometimes delve into the horror genre as well? If you're into Bram Stoker, I have to ask.
No, exactly.
I'm sorry, Meave. I'm just getting a little bit of feedback there. It's a little difficult to hear you. Can you repeat your answer for me, please? I
was just saying that I'm not really into horror thing, maybe just vampire thing. I enjoy reading Anne Rice a lot.
Ah, okay, great. Lestat and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and you said you're into gaming as well. What kind of games do you like? What are some of your favorites?
I'm the kind of girl that like the role-playing solo gaming type, like Skyrim and Fallout and Witcher and like it.
Oh, cool! That's fantastic. Is there anything you saw at E3 this year or that's coming out that's got you particularly excited?
Of course, there would be Elder Scrolls 6. We're all waiting for that one.
I mean, yes, of course. Who in the gaming community isn't waiting for that one? That's awesome. I wanted to ask you. You've had a pretty incredible career so far, and I wanted to ask, what particular challenges have you found as a woman in the professional wrestling business?
Oh my God, that's a very good question, but maybe my answer is going to be a very boring one because I've hardly faced any challenge being a woman. Seriously, and I'm serious about it. It's always been easy for me. I have always felt very accepted in all the roster I've been. I've never been unrespected. Seriously. everyone has been so great for me since the very beginning. No, seriously, my answer is a very, very boring one. I'm sorry, but that's the case.
There is certainly no need to apologize. As a matter of fact, it is encouraging, I think, to hear a story of somebody who did not find that their gender was a factor in hardships for them in the business. However, you do hear lots of horror stories from women all over the country and even in the world who are involved in the pro wrestling business. Are you at all concerned that as your career continues to grow and your reach regionally and nationally and globally continues to grow, that is something that you're going to have to face?
It's very well possible. I am not saying that since I've had an easy beginning of career, it's not going to change. Certainly, and maybe I live in dread of that moment because I've never faced it before, and maybe I won't know how to react to it. But I'm hopeful that it's not going to happen. That maybe my luck is going to go on, you know.
Well, I will say this, hearing you say that you grew up with a very supportive community and that you haven't yet encountered the kind of, let's say, mistreatment that other women have received in the business, it really is a wonderful thing to hear. It gives people like me hope, who hope for a world in which that's the case. And I think that the argument can be made that from a mainstream point of view, women's wrestling is starting to get more respect as being seen as equal. And I think I can point to something like, say, Tessa Blanchard getting an opportunity to wrestle for the Impact World Championship recently. And that's a pretty big step forward. And I wanted to ask your thoughts on intergender wrestling. Have you done it in the past? Do you have an opinion about it one way or another? What's your take?
I personally find that it's very interesting for guys and girls to step in the ring together. I actually am the NSPW Tag Team Champion with Thomas Dubois from Montreal.
Yes.
I have won that belt in competing in a 8-person tag team match at Golden Opportunity 11. They were all guys. I was the only girl in the match.
Ah.
Never felt not respected. All the guys were real gentlemen. And I've competed quite a lot in matches against guys, and it always went well. Guys respect the women in the business mostly.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. And before we wrap things up, I wanted to just ask a few questions about your future goals, some of the things that you want to achieve that you haven't crossed off your bucket list yet. Is there a particular match you haven't had yet that you would really like to have?
I'm sure everyone on Earth has a pre-prepared answer for that, but I don't. Actually, I really try to live everything by the moment, and I take the opportunities when they just show up, and I take them, and I'm really not hoping for too much. I think I don't expect too much of anything, actually. I just take everything as they come.
Does that include things in terms of what you want to accomplish in the business, or do you have some ideas about like what you would like to achieve before you kind of wrap it up and call it a career one day, hopefully long into the future?
Okay, so if there would be one thing I would like to do before maybe hanging up my boots, that would be a participation in the Mae Young Classic. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Awesome. That would be awesome. That would be, if it doesn't happen, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it would be pretty awesome if it happened.
Well, I would love to see you there someday. I know my co-host Jenny would love to see you there too. We always get very, very happy when we see Canadian talent represented in the tournament. And of course, you know, who knows what'll happen after SummerSlam week. We could end up seeing Meave O'Farrell on the Make the Young Classic this year, which would be pretty amazing, that's for sure. Meave, before we go, why don't you tell everybody listening where they can find you, and whether that's on social media or whether that's at an event?
So on Facebook it would be my name, Meave O'Farrell, MEAZE O'Farrell, 2R2L. And there is also that Twitter account, Meave O'Farrell something. If they want to just take a like and follow me on Twitter. And except that there are all the events of the NSPW and the FCL, since I'm the FCL Women's Champion as well in Shawinigan. So in Quebec City, NSPW, and Shawinigan, the FCL, I'm going to be there all season.
This was great. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us on Women Crush Wrestling today. I had a really great time interviewing you and getting to know you. I'm sure our listeners did well as well. We cannot wait to see you August 10th at the Summit. Meave, thank you so much for being a part of our show today.
Thank you for having me, and sorry for my bad English.
It was great. Don't worry.
Thank you so much.
Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today. There she is, Meave O'Farrell. I really want to thank her. You know, here's a little fun fact. A lot of people may not know this. She was very nervous about that interview because she was worried her English wasn't going to be very good. But I thought she spoke really well, honestly. And I thought she was a great interview. I really liked talking to her. She's just a lot of fun. She's a really interesting and fun guest. I hope we can get her back on, and I hope she does really, really well in Toronto. I think it's going to be great. All right, Jed, before we wrap things up, I just want to quickly ask a few favors of our listeners. First and foremost, listeners, if you're on social media, would you like and follow us, please? We're on all the social platforms that you know and love, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all at WrestleMedia.ca, just like our website. How convenient is that? We're also on YouTube. If you like to listen to your podcast via the YouTubes, we have a YouTube channel. You can subscribe and notify. Do you subscribe to any channels on YouTube?
I don't even have a YouTube account.
She was the wrong person to ask that question to.
So sorry.
That's all right. You know, Jen, if you want to make it up to us, there is a way that you could do that.
Make one and then subscribe?
Well, yes, I suppose so. But I was thinking more like you could throw a few ducats in the bucket over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, because that is absolutely the best way for our listeners to support us monetarily. You can get anywhere from $2 to $20 tiers, and each tier has a different reward level. For example, if you're listening to this podcast on a Monday like a chump, well, get with the program and pay a few ducats. You'll get this on Saturday with the rest of the winners at Patreon. Plus, if you want to hear more, well, if you're a patron, you're going to get more, because that's what we do for you. Yeah, at certain levels, we give you extra bonus content. Jen and I are going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff in the next half hour, like a Tennille Dashwood making a big announcement that I'm super psyched out about. And then we're going to talk about some sad when it comes to Brandy Rhodes. Not her, but the way people are treating her, and it's bullcrap. We're going to get all into that in the next little bit for our patrons, but only for our patrons. So support us. Go put a few ducats in the bucket. But if you're just too poor to put anything in, or you're too cheap to just be like, I'm going to throw a couple bucks at him and Jen's way.
I feel personally attacked.
Well, you know, you are the one that didn't have the YouTube account, so I mean,
I didn't even have Twitter until you were like, you should get Twitter, and I was like, all right.
You really brought this on yourself, is what I'm saying.
So I don't really like social media. I have like 2, and that's it.
And it's only for the purposes of this podcast.
Well, I have 3 now, because one is
for the podcast.
Instagram is for dog pics.
Can you tell us what your Instagram is, so if people want to follow your dogs?
It's Ray Jenny, but it's spelt the Japanese way, so it's REI.
REI Jenny.
Or Jen. Maybe I might need to look at that.
Okay. While you look that up, I'm going to encourage you listeners to help us out in other ways other than monetarily, and that's by becoming our own personal Dave Meltzer. Give us 5 stars if you're on iTunes. Rate and review us. Those are the stars we like the best, the 5 stars. But, give us whatever you want. That's fine. We're desperate. We'll take anything. Or just share the podcast. Tell people about it. Just take a little link from WrestleMedia.ca and be like, hey, I found this cool podcast. You should listen to it. I don't know what's going on with my voice.
Morty.
Oh, jeez, Jen. Well, actually, that is kind of appropriate considering how often you belch on the show.
That's true. And I am drinking root beer, so this might happen more.
See, only patrons will get to hear you burp.
They'll get to hear my burp. They love it.
And that's just about going to do it for us on the free end of the show. Jen, unless there's anything else you want to throw in there before we wrap it up for them?
Nah.
They don't deserve it. All right, fine. That's going to do it for us this week on WrestleMedia.ca for Women Crush Wrestling. I'm excited about it. Jen, we got lots more coming up in the Patreon half. Until then, though, I think it's time to bring it home.
All right, well, I've been just Jenny, and that's been my boy Adam.
Cuckoo Cachoo.
And he's a walrus.
I am the walrus. Did we crush it this week?
Yeah, sure.
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything.
Here's what you're missing out on right now over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. It's like eating a delicious dessert and then someone handing you a dog turd afterward and saying, okay, now finish off with this.
Who would eat a dog turd willingly?
It's not willingly. They're force feeding it to you. That's the point.
What restaurant is this?
One with bad reviews, clearly. That's the point.
Jeez.
And it's also the restaurant where the WWE writers eat, apparently. Because that is the same kind of booking they're doing with this. Want more? Sign up now at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.